Hello and welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. I'm Chuck Benoit with the Nature of Things, where we are realigning God, government, and natural law so that we might restore our American Republic. In the Gospel of John, chapter 18, verse 30, Pontius Pilate asks Jesus, "What is truth?" And apparent scoffing at the idea that there is truth. Someone else I've heard once said, if it's true for anyone, it's true for everyone. And that puts some significant boundaries on what truth could be. We all have an investment into what we consider the truth, and many of us find ourselves accusing others of lying because their version of the truth violates our investment. If you aren't aware of what each side has invested, an onlooker may be confused as to who is telling the truth, if anyone. I would suggest that each of us must be far more aware of circumstances surrounding someone's idea of what is true in order to be better informed as to what the truth might actually be. We have had quite a debate here recently on our live stream about the expelling of MAGA Republicans from the RPOF. And both sides believe they're telling the truth. So what are the investments each side has in the discussion? Well, the RPOF has a party they want to unify under a specific set of political values. Unfortunately, those values are not the same as many others in the party. So the idea of finding a way to expel these people from the party can be a significant investment into what they say is true. Now, those being thrown out of the party, what's their investment in the truth? Well, most have said that it's freedom. Freedom to determine who is representing them in government, and even to have a say in what legislation is being debated or passed. Just to keep the discussion on a singular plane, one side is invested in control of the party, while the other is invested in a Republican form of government of, by, and for we the people. So with that said, I'd like to invite my buddy, Mike Levine. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Chuck. It's Thursday, Chuck.
Yes, it
Heading into the
is.
weekend.
Just about.
It's going to be a big day.
Yeah, for sure. A lot going on today too. Say as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely. Yep.
So,
Yep.
we have no guests tonight, so we are each other's guests, I guess. And
Cool.
I thought we'd start off with the topic of pay to play.
That is an interesting one, isn't it? Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you
How
might
would you like to
have.
get started, Chuck?
Well, I'd just like you to kind of talk about the idea and uh, framing it in a little bit close to home, like we here in the political arena here in Florida. What is that all about?
It's so interesting. I could talk about this for days with various different examples, but the overarching concept is that I'm going to use the word stakeholders, which means people who get money from the government, or yeah, it's money. Okay. I was going to say influence, which is true also, but the influence typically results in financial gain. And I'm saying to you, like I've told you for quite a while, and it is evidenced by our lobby visits to Tallahassee. And when we go into our representatives' offices, all they want to do, I'm just going to use our friend Representative Taylor Yarkowski is a classic example of this, right? And every time you have a conversation with Representative Taylor Yarkowski, who also happens to be the chairman of the Lake County Republican Executive Committee, it always boils down to the money. Oh, our Lincoln Reagan dinner was a great success because we brought in a lot of money. I understand. I was a chairman of the party. Money was important to me also. But more important to me was hearing the voices of the members of the Republican Executive Committee. That superseded my commitment to raising money for the organization. Without the members, the organization's nothing, in my view. But I believe that Representative Yarkowski, Chairman Yarkowski, believes that as long as he's bringing a lot of money, the members don't matter. And that really goes to the top-down nature of government that we're experiencing today, and the pushback from the grassroots who are demanding representation, Chuck. And I'll leave this little quick opening segment of the conversation to that and give you an opportunity to respond or reframe what I just said.
Yeah, well, it really is an issue because what the REC, local REC, is all about is getting Republicans elected. That's all very, very good. Well, the Republicans just lost a significant election in Claremont. And the end result of the loss was an accusation that those people who worked so hard to get, it was Tod Howard, to get Tod Howard elected the first time, well, we didn't do the same thing the second time. But
right. Coming from Chuck, go ahead. Forgive me.
The chairman involved with the people who actually did all this hard work for Tod Howard. He actually had monthly meetings, and in every single monthly meeting, he brought up the importance of that race, and he brought up the importance of us financing that race or being involved in door-to-door knocking with that race. I heard absolutely nothing about that race this time along until after the fact, after we lost it. So that
Okay.
kind of points to your assessment that yeah, we brought in a lot of money and we lost elections.
Yeah, we were so focused on bringing in money that we didn't pay attention to our core responsibility, which is winning elections, Chuck.
That's pretty much my point.
Okay, so at the meeting, and again, keep in mind, right? Chairman Yarkowski invited this young man who wound up helping Tod Howard in an attempt to get, and keep in mind, we lost an incumbent seat. And when your opponent defeats your incumbent, that is massive, right? When you take down an incumbent, that's a very big deal. So Chairman Yarkowski brought in this young man. I don't remember his name, sadly. Bright guy, but they tried to put lipstick all over this. And this guy stood at the podium for quite a while and explained to us how awesome and wonderful the Lake County Republican Executive Committee is in our failure. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
We lost dramatically. We were totally overperformed by our opponent, but the Lake County Republican Executive Committee is amazing, and Amanda's amazing, and Taylor Yarkowski's amazing, and Monica's amazing, and all these people are amazing, but we got our asses handed to us on a silver platter, right? And then he explained to us that the candidate himself was so busy setting up a business in Georgia that he didn't have time to campaign. Okay, that's fine. It's a city council seat. It's not your full-time job, let's just say, okay? But we have to agree that, for example, if you just take this election cycle compared to the last election cycle, Tod Howard worked a whole lot harder on his election in the first election cycle than he did in the second. That's obvious. Tod Howard would agree with that. And so with this, I think his name's Patrick, but I don't know his last name, very fine young man who was addressing the Republican Executive Committee. Everyone would agree that Tod Howard worked less on his reelection than he did on his original election. That's point number one. The candidate didn't do a good job. And then, of course, the candidate and his management team didn't even approach the REC, Republican Executive Committee, until they knew they were losing. And then they were counting on these bureaucrats that run the Republican Executive Committee to put on their walking shoes and do thousands and thousands of door knocking and mailing and phone calls and all that kind of stuff, when in fact the election had already been lost. Okay, so there are two failures, as I pointed out in the meeting, two failures. Number one, the candidate failed. And the party wasn't really interested in this until they found an opportunity to self-aggrandize by coming to the rescue of our Republican candidate running for a city council seat in Claremont. And of course, they came with too little, too late. The effort failed. So in the REC meeting, I had to point out that it was a failure of leadership. And if you would just endure another little section to this conversation before I turn the floor back over to you, Chuck, I'm just going to say that the previous chairman, as you pointed out, he identified the need to get Republicans elected to the city council in Claremont before Tod Howard was even on the scene. So you have I'm just going to make this brief. You have a massive disparity in leadership between the previous chairman of the party, Anthony Sabatini, and the current chairman of the party, Taylor Yarkowski. Day and night, Anthony Sabatini is all about leadership, and Taylor Yarkowski demonstrates none, Chuck.
Well, he does bring in a lot of money. You just wonder what he's selling.
Well, that's not too hard to do, right? When you give gubernatorial candidates an opportunity to come to your town and hang out with high-end, ritzy donors who can donate back to their campaigns, that goes right back into our pay-to-play topic that we opened with, Chuck.
Yeah, there we go. So we do have we have things that we can do as individual members of the Republican Party as we in our personal situations, like for instance this live stream, and we're talking about a lot of things that are going on, a lot of grassroots organizations going through leadership changes, etc. And one of the things that we've talked about is getting these live streams that we're doing here in Lake County going throughout the entire state. Yeah, how do we make that happen? Is there do you have any thoughts on that?
Chuck, I think about it all the time. Okay, I've put it out there, so I'm going to have to deliver it, right, Chuck? Come on the screen with me, Chuck, so I can talk to you.
I agree with you.
There
I
you
just
go.
thought you were going to take off.
Thank you. Well, I am going to take off, but I would like to have just some back and forth with you and me. Okay, so
well, I'll hang out.
if resources weren't a problem, I'm basically saying money, I would just get in my car and I'd go down to Monroe County in the Keys, and I would hang out at county commission meetings and local meetings until I found 4 or 5 people that were willing to. And let's get into this conversation about what like, for example, let's just let the audience be aware that I am a candidate running to be the state chairman of the Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida. And I presented a business plan to the Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida, explaining to them what I would like to do if they are gracious enough to elect me to be their state chairman. Okay, so I sent that report out. And look, everybody in the Republican Liberty Caucus is not supportive of my plan. It's a little, I was told by leadership that it's overly ambitious. Okay, so that's fine. Everybody has their right to the point of view. The question becomes, are we satisfied with the results that we've been getting over the years, or would we like to do better? And that's basically my premise. So to answer your question, and we can do it online. So number one, the easy thing to do, if you want to take the time and money to do it, would be just go from county to county until you recruit your little team to live stream onto a platform that the RLC, Republican Liberty Caucus, will provide, or in the absence of that, then you and I will provide, or I will provide by recruiting a producer like you so graciously produced this show. We'll provide the production platform so people can come on and live stream. But what are we going to talk about, Chuck? That's the big deal. Okay. So my point is that I'd like those same live streamers should also monitor the legislation that's being sponsored by their legislative delegations in their county. And we need to have people in every single county so that we cover all of the legislation that's being proposed in the Florida legislature. That's point number one. Okay. So now you've got the live stream component. The same people who are live streaming, the influencers, are studying the legislation that's being proposed by their legislative delegation They're coming on the live stream and reporting on it. But the next step actually is, Chuck, that we want to also invite the legislator on who is proposing the legislation to let them explain to our audience why this legislation is good for Floridians. And this goes back to your pay to play concept, Chuck, because I believe that our state legislators will not be able to make a case that the legislation that they're proposing is actually good for their constituents, because it's good for their donors and people who are financially beneficiaries of the legislation, and not necessarily good for their constituents. And I would just use the land use legislation that's been running through the legislature over the last couple of years, which infuriates locals, and the legislators love it, Chuck. So that's a classic example of pay to play at the expense of your constituents. And I explained this to Senator Keith Trudeau on Monday night in the hallway at the Republican Executive Committee meeting. Senator Trudeau, if you want to have civil Republican Executive Committee meetings, then you have to stop governing for your own personal best interest and start taking care of your constituents. And he and I had this conversation in the hallway outside of the Republican Executive Committee Monday night. And to his credit, he was listening intently, because as I commented to you off air, Chuck, I believe oftentimes our legislators are so disconnected from the constituents that they really don't even understand that the constituents object to what they're doing, Chuck, which is really, really, really sad, isn't it, Chuck?
Yes, it is. And again, it just goes to the heart of what republicanism is. And what we need to understand is that our legislators don't understand what republicanism is. And if we can't articulate it, then we really will struggle explaining to them why we're upset. And the entire Republican concept is framed in simply this: we the people tell our legislators how and what they can govern on. And that's what the Constitution was about. And of course, we've destroyed that. The government has taken control of so much more than we actually allowed them to do. But just closer to home, right here, and not having to deal with the U.S. Constitution, we're just talking about our legislators right here in Florida. If they're legislating for the benefit of special interests, they are not legislating for we the people. That is not republicanism. And to have a Republican Party, to have a Republican Party that's not aware of republicanism, isn't that much better than being governed by Democrats?
Let me say something, Chuck. This is so out of hand that the legislators are literally governing for their own financial best interest. And they fully understand that, at the expense of their constituents, which they understand that too. This is how broken this system is.
Yeah,
I do have another point I'd like to make, whenever you're ready, Chuck.
Well, I'll just finish. That is the definition of an autocracy.
No doubt.
So what say you?
Well, I'm just going to throw out another concept. As we, like, for example, the Florida Republican Assembly is having an election too. You know, we had our friend Bill Helmick on last week, and he pointed out that the Florida Republican Assembly is having an election also. They're going to elect a president and a vice president, the whole slate of officers over there. And of course, the Liberty Caucus is having an election for their chairman on December the 7th, which I'm running to be the chairman of that. And I'm also saying, because again, you and I were together at the state committee man, state committee woman caucus Friday night at the Republican Party of Florida quarterly meeting. And we had an opportunity to talk to gubernatorial candidate Paul Renner. Um, Without getting too deep into that, I've also been talking with Stephanie Winheim, who's an amazing activist right here in our own backyard in North Lake County. And I believe at this point in time, Chuck, we, but I'm going to frame it as grassroots organizations, we have to come up with a gubernatorial platform of our own. And instead of wondering whether Byron Donalds is better than Casey DeSantis or Jay Collins or Paul Renner or James Fishback or whoever's running, we need to, this is a problem, Chuck, because we're not telling our candidates what we want. So my recommendation is that every one of these organizations, and I'm happy to collectively collaborate with other organizations, we need to draft a platform for the governor and say, which one of you guys will do this? And let them sign on to it instead of us waiting for them to figure out what we want, Chuck.
Yeah, what you're suggesting is to have kind of our own little platform to offer to the governing uh, candidates for governor, and to see who of which of those are willing to govern for us and for our interests. And of course, each of us individually, that would be a struggle. But for the Republican Liberty Caucus, Florida Republican Assembly, and some of the other grassroots organizations, to be able to compile that together, to have a unified grassroots, if you will, a platform for our governor, I think that would be just an incredible asset to any governor willing to promote it.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, uh, in our conversation with Paul Renner Friday night, he passed he as the Speaker of the House, he passed legislation into law that we hate. Yet he also told us that he was very willing to repeal some of the most egregious legislation that he allowed to pass into law. So I believe that Paul Renner is someone who would be open to adopting much of our platform if we were organized enough to create one. And trust me, Chuck, I have a very specific plan, methodology on how to build the platform. And we can talk about that sometime when we have a little more time, okay?
Yeah, just checking some comments here. Um, Cheryl P says, I just looked at all the bills yesterday already filed, and our legislative delegation have not filed bills we are interested in. Yarkowski, 2 bills, Gentry, 4 bills, Cobb, 1 bill, and Truenow filed 9 weak, WEAK, bills. Bernie Jocks, not our rep, filed a great bill. So,
Right.
so there's a lot going on already out there, and
Hey, Chuck, I'm going to steal a phrase from our communist mayor of New York. The 4 words that he had for Donald Trump, we have for the Florida legislature: turn up the volume. Because I got news for you, Florida legislature. The grassroots is turning up the volume right now, and you ain't seen nothing yet, Chuck.
yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, we are into it. It sounds like Cheryl feels like the bills that are being put out there are not necessarily good for we the people. And hopefully we can kind of address that as a group at some point in the future. Um, we still have a good amount of time. I'd like to kind of go back to the whole live stream thing for just a second, because it is daunting. I think it probably took us maybe 6 months from the beginning of saying, let's kind of look into this, to actually pulling the plug and making something happen. And so for all these people out there, any of you in any of these counties out there, if you would really love to kind of jump into this, we are here to help. And the idea of someone like myself, uh, kind of putting your program together, I don't have to be visible. I can do this whole thing in the background if you would like to put together a live stream concept for your county or your community. And once you begin to see how it's done, if you want to take it over on your own, fine. We're here to organize the people of Lake County, Florida, any way we can, because when you go out knocking on doors like we did last November election, and you talk to people, this is what you find. You find there's a lot of Republicans out there that really don't want to know anything except whether or not you're a Republican. But there are others out there that are actually paying attention, and almost to the person, those who are paying attention are asking the question, what is wrong with the Republican Party? That has got to tell you something. We need a voice, and we have a voice, and now we need to organize our voice throughout the entire state of Florida. So people out there who are listening, like this and share it with people in other counties. Like it and share it with people that aren't necessarily paying attention, because we need to pay attention. Otherwise, we're going to end up, as my phrase, I'll close again with it, this broadcast. If you are unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. Mr. Levine.
Yes. So, political campaigns are, I'm going to use the word sophisticated to a degree. We have to do everything that a political campaign does every single day, nonstop, regardless of election cycle or no election cycle. We need to be doing push notifications on issues into voters' cell phones on a regular basis. We need to be doing email distributions on a regular basis. We need to be doing live streaming continuously. And then we need to be analyzing legislation and writing marketing pieces on issues, Chuck, because we can see clearly that the candidates fail us pretty universally. So my recommendation to the Republican Liberty Caucus of Florida and all the other grassroots organizations in the state is, let's not pay so much attention to these candidates. Let's spend a lot of time on issues, and let's create massive public awareness on issues. And then we can talk about the candidates who are willing to sign a pledge to sponsor the legislation that we need sponsored in the legislature. And that is how you will have the legislature coming to you, to us, because we dominate on the issues. And then there will be certain legislators that will come on board with us and some that won't. And then we just use the megaphone that we've created in order to influence the legislators to do what we need them to do, Chuck.
There we go. Well, we've kind of moved right through our little list of things we wanted to talk about. One of the final ones was an idea that we just kind of threw out here, that the members, I would imagine that the members of the House and Senate should decide what bills will be presented to them, instead of simply the leadership, the governor and the Senate majority and et cetera leaders decide unilaterally. You want to just kind of close us out with some comments about that?
Well, let me be provocative, Chuck, which is so uncharacteristic of me, as you know. If I was the Speaker of the House, or if I was a freshman in the Florida legislature, I would offer myself to be the leader of the Florida legislature, and my platform would be that every bill would be heard. So what I would do is I would have all of the recording capabilities in the Florida House and the Florida Senate in the chamber on the floor. And I would open that up 24 hours, 7 days a week. And I would say, read your bill. Every representative, whether it's a senator or a representative, read your bill into the record and then make your case on why this is good for the people of the state of Florida. and then and then we'll, just continuously, that thing would be going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, debating legislation in committee weeks and going into session so that every bill is heard, right? And then, and you can get into the rationale of why leadership doesn't do that. But I would suggest that the overriding reason that leadership doesn't do that is because they have a very specific agenda that is targeted toward very specific special interests, and they don't want to lose focus on those things. But of course, all of the politicians that we love are grassroots politicians who govern for the people of the state of Florida. And you could argue, and I'm arguing right now, I'm making the point that bad legislation will fall to the side because it's not good for the people of the state of Florida, and good legislation will make it into committee hearings and eventually to the floor for a final vote in the House and the Senate, Chuck. So I'm all about transparency, all about an open process and dialogue. Our REC meetings are the opposite of that, where the chairman just says, we're not hearing this because I said so. And don't take it from me, ladies and gentlemen. Talk to anybody on the Lake County Republican Executive Committee, and they will tell you that our chairman, Taylor Yorkowski, who is a representative in the Florida House, shuts us down entirely because he said so, and he doesn't want the motion on the floor to come to a debate, Chuck. That is horrific.
There we go. And we are out of time. So I thank you again for tuning in to our twice weekly live stream. Please follow us on Facebook at Restoring Our American Republic, or check us out on YouTube at Restoring Our American Republic -ROAR. Like and share our program, please. And remember, if you are unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. Until next time, God bless you. God bless President Donald J. Trump, and God bless America.